This video is sponsored by Muslim Certify. One of the biggest concerns around moving to Saudi Arabia is residency. Can you get permanent residency? Is living there long-term only for the wealthy? And can you really rely on short-term tourist visas when trying to stay? In this episode, we're tackling these questions head on with our brother, Dr. Ujama. Dr. Ujama has been living in Saudi Arabia for over 5 years. And in this interview, he reveals exactly how he's been able to stay long-term while experiencing amazing cities like Riyadh, Jeddah, Dammam, and of course, Mecca and Medina. If you've been dreaming of moving to Saudi Arabia, but have been feeling uncertain about the temporary nature of the visa options, then this video will give you some clear answers about what your options are, inshallah. Are you tired of the 9-to-5 trapping you? Are you unable to relocate because finding remote, halal income is a major obstacle? Then you need to consider Muslim Certify. Muslim Certify helps Muslim men earn anywhere from $2,000 to $10,000 per month by becoming appointment setters for online businesses. Imagine earning a thriving income with just a laptop and an internet connection, giving you the freedom to live anywhere in the world and make Hijrah without financial worry, inshallah. Muslim Certify has over 150 brothers in their program with plenty of success stories. Check out the link in the description for more details. All right, Dr. Ujama, welcome to the program. Could you introduce yourself to the people that may not know who you are?
Yeah, sure. I go by Abu Mustafa. Some people may know me as Abu Sanaya from way back, but I go by Abu Mustafa now. Dr. Ernest Ujama from Seattle, Washington, and I have a PhD in criminal justice and working almost completing my finished with another PhD in forensic psychology. I'm also working on postgraduate certificate in artificial intelligence, generative artificial intelligence.
So you have a really interesting story of how you ended up in Saudi Arabia. You mind sharing that with us?
Yeah, what had happened was my ex-wife had called me or sent a message to me and told me that my daughter, our daughter, was interested in studying in Saudi, and she wasn't too happy about that. But she said if she's going to go, then I need to be there with her. So I dropped everything and said, yeah, absolutely, anything, my daughter. So I dropped everything. I took the cash that I had saved and came out here to Saudi. I entered Riyadh first, so I stayed in Riyadh. Then I went down to Dammam, where a friend was at. He had introduced me to one of his family members, an in-law, and so I went down there to meet him, and then I planned a trip to Mecca. Still waiting on my daughter to get here, but what had happened was when I got to Mecca, the hotel that I booked, it was closed. So we went to the nearest hotel, and what happened there was the guy wouldn't open the door. So we're asking him why he's not opening the door, and he said, "You can't stay here because the whole city is shut down. Everything is shut down. The government shut everything down because of COVID." And at that time, I had no idea that this was actually happening or going to happen. And so we ended up being stranded in Mecca, but we prayed there. Alhamdulillah. We were able to pray outside the Masjid al-Haram. And so I had that experience, but then I had to get on a plane. We had to get a taxi, get a taxi all the way back to the airport in Jeddah. And then from Jeddah, the only city that was open. Everything was closed except for Dammam. Dammam was open, and it was just alhamdulillah, by the grace of Allah, that I was able to get a hotel, and I just popped down pretty much. I knew I was going to be there for a while, so I just said, okay, I'm gonna pay you straight up for 3 months in advance, and hopefully it's gonna happen. 3 months turned out to be 6 months, and 6 months turned out to be almost a year. So I ended up staying in Dammam, and throughout the whole COVID, that was my introduction to Saudi.
So it wasn't your intention to live there or stay there?
No, not at all. Except for just to get my daughter into school and find out what was needed of me if I needed to be here. Things were changing, so it was uncertain whether or not I had to be here. But if I had to, I was going to be there for my daughter as a mahram.
I mean, okay, COVID restrictions, they get eased a little bit. So why did you just go back? Why didn't you just go back to America?
Yeah, that's a good question. Okay, so what happened was, yes, the restrictions had eased. Saudi was very good at controlling the COVID, and they were just, I was so impressed with how they handled the whole thing and how they also handled people here, because they didn't kick anyone out of the country. They just basically said, listen, don't worry, you're going to be all right. Because I was very concerned about my visa and overstaying and having fines and all that. I even went to the police station, and that was at the time when COVID began, when the restrictions began to ease, because they had a strict curfew. And the first, I would say, for the first 6 months, it was a very strict curfew, and then it began to wind down. Anybody who was here would know that it was like you had only so much time, I think 3 or 4 hours, to get to a grocery store, get things that you need, and then get back to wherever you had to be, because you were going to be on lockdown, right? But being new to Saudi and all the rules and everything, there were things that I just didn't know. So, like, for example, I walked on the wrong side of the street, and the police officer stopped me and said, hey, what are you doing? When I told them that I'm a visitor and I'm so stuck here, they said, welcome. We're happy that you're here. I don't even think I even told them I was from the U.S. They were just welcoming me. And then, so even though the restrictions did ease, okay, the airport was still closed. And the U.S. had itself had enacted restrictions. So they placed restrictions that were even more strict than here. And so you couldn't, even if I was able to get out, there was no guarantees that I was going to be able to get back into the U.S. So they were cool here. The authorities who were here Saudis were very cool. They understood everything. And they were like, just stay, until everything is finally open. So on all sides. And the airport here did not open right away anyway. So the airports here didn't open up, I think, until like late December, January.
Right. MashaAllah. So I mean, what made you decide to stay in Saudi Arabia?
The treatment, and knowing, as a Muslim, especially, as a Muslim like myself, I faced a lot of hardship in the U.S. With authorities. I just feel like I was always arguing with them, always having to have, I'm always finding myself in these combative, roles, and it was just something that I just didn't want anymore. I got tired of always having to, be on the offensive or defensive, and so when every time I went out, I had traveled out before. So I traveled to Jordan, I traveled to Addis Ababa in Ethiopia, and the treatment was just outstanding at every place, and I felt peace and ease. And this was while I was actually in the early stages of my PhD. And I had finished all of my residencies. So I had nothing else to really do except for everything was just now online. And the peace, the you know, the drama-free environment was just appealing to me. So I decided to come back. I made plans after I had left. I made plans to come back. What I had done as I was doing a little bit of work, saving up some money, and with the intention of leaving. And even my father, man, and this was something I had not even expected from him, but he had yelled at me and said, "What are you doing? Get out of here." Go, man, get out of here. My father moved to the Dominican Republic. He knew that I liked Saudi, and he knew that I wanted to be there with my daughter. And he was like, "Get married, get out of here." He gave me this long. I wasn't married then. I was, I still was divorced. So I had met my wife, Saudi wife, and he was like, get married. He gave me this long, I would say about a 2-hour, I kid you not, a 2-hour lecture about not being alone and how men should not live alone and not be a sugar daddy, be married. And I appreciated all of that because we had never talked like that before. But he was like talking as if he was going to, like he knew that his life was about to end, and this was all that he could pass on to me was, because he had been there for me, and on other occasions where I was going through it, and so it was like he was really trying to send me this message, and so later he passed away after I got married. He was going to come out here and see me too, but. Yeah, I would say that he was a major influence on leaving so quickly. And then also my uncle, or cousin, I would say, as he's not really, we call him uncle out of respect. It's more than a family cousin. Former Black Panther Party member. And I was staying with him, as a matter of fact. He invited me to come stay with him for a little while. And he was telling me the same thing. We go on walks, and he would say, "You got to get out of here. You got to get out of here. Or leave. I'll stay there." So that was the motivation. When I met my wife, when I came up, and that's how I met my wife. Actually, we married online because of the COVID, and me and my are cool with that, and all of the rulings and everything because of the COVID. So it was almost like, it was everything just worked out. Alhamdulillah. It was like, Allah made it very easy for me. There was no drama, no issues about marriage or anything. Even the Saudis were cool with it. The US was cool with it. Everybody was cool with it. Because normally you would have to be married, and you'd have to actually be there. But that didn't actually take place until I actually came. And then, I actually came, and then we had another nikah, and everything just worked out really well.
To get your Hijrah-related books, go to book.makehijrah.com.
Mashallah. So, okay, so now a lot of people, they don't understand the differences between the cities. And moving to Saudi Arabia, those things have to be considered. If you want to go to Riyadh, if you want to go to Jeddah, if you want to go to Medina, if you want to go to Mecca, all of those places, Dammam, these places have their reasoning for you to go there in different environments. And you've been to all of those, right?
I have.
Now, so the question is this: now you're in Jeddah. So can you explain to someone who's interested in moving to Saudi Arabia, what are the benefits, firstly, of, let's say Riyadh first. Why would a person choose Riyadh as a place to settle?
Well, Riyadh is now the new capital. And when I was there, I really enjoyed Riyadh. fact, that if I was going to live anywhere, it would be there. I mean, that was my one of my choices is to go back to Riyadh and live there. But my wife's family is here, so and then we started looking at property by the Corniche. So that is the ocean front or the sea front, right? And sea area. It's really a really nice area. Why would you live in Riyadh? If you are looking to do business, I would say that's where first of all, that's where all of the headquarters for all of the major Saudi companies are going to be at anyway. And that's where a lot of your foreign companies are going to be working out of as well. Some very big ones, as a matter of fact. A gaming company is down there. Big one. Get the name of it, but it was bought out, sold, and now it's the headquarters is down there. If you're into gaming, you would know that they're there. Actually, there are a lot of big companies, even U.S. companies that are foreign companies and U.S. companies that are in Riyadh because of that. Jeddah is much older, and it's not the capital. The transportation is a little bit more. It's much more difficult to get transportation in Jeddah outside of a taxi or Uber or something like that. Riyadh is much easier. You have bus system there that is easy to access. Now you have a sort of a monorail. You have the train, but you also have the monorail to or subway type, not subway, but so you have that. You have that there now because they just finished that up. They were working on it when I first went to Riyadh. It's more modern. It's easier to walk around and get to things. I think there are many areas that have sidewalks, so you can actually walk on pavement rather than walking in the street. You're still going to have places where you're going to be walking in the street, which is a setback for me because I like to walk. And Dammam is very old, but I think that a lot of people like to go there because of the Corniche, which is near Sober, and you have Aramco. Aramco's there, so you have a lot of foreigners there. However, I didn't see a lot of foreigners when I was there. I only ran into one American. A Black American, him and I, we chopped it up. We talked for quite a bit, and we would meet up. But he wasn't Muslim, so it was interesting to get his perspective and take on Saudi because he had been here for like years, 7 years, something like that, and he wasn't happy about a lot of things. And so I gave him a different perspective, a different way to look at things, and he sort of opened my eyes to some things, but I rejected a lot of it because I understood, it's just not understanding because if you're not Muslim, you're not going to understand. So some of the things, right? The little nuances. So Dammam is really cool. Also in Dammam, what I liked about Dammam was that they have an old souk there, and it's very close to Bahrain, so you can literally walk over to Bahrain. In Jeddah, you're going to find a little bit of everything. Jeddah is, like I said, older, so because a lot of people make Umrah, you're gonna be running into people that are on their way to Mecca and Medina. And it's also a place where, like, my nephew was here not long ago, and another family member, and both of them flew into Riyadh, excuse me, and then from Riyadh flew to Jeddah, and that's quite common. So they fly into Riyadh. The Riyadh airport is a big airport, much bigger than Jeddah, and then you'll, I think that was my perception. I saw it's more international, but so you fly in from Riyadh, you fly to Jeddah, and then you could either get a train or you might just fly directly into Mecca or Medina. But I think you might take a train or a bus. I see a lot of people getting on the buses. So you have a lot going on here in Jeddah, but I'm not going to say that it is that one place is actually better than the other. Other than it's all depending on what you're looking for. Me, I haven't crossed the road where I'm looking to do business yet. I'm exploring these things, and I think if I were to start a business, I would definitely move my family to Riyadh.
Is there a difference in the cost of living in Riyadh and between Riyadh and Jeddah?
Now, okay, I have never actually lived there. I was in a hotel there, and the hotel, it was a residential hotel. It was nice. I didn't spend a lot of money on it. And it was, and I thought that, and it was back, that was in what, 2020. So, of course things have changed now, because now back then they didn't have the tax that they have on everything. So, and prices have gone up since then. So in all honesty, I don't know, but what I've heard is that, and what I've seen in ads, when you were looking for places to compare Jeddah to Riyadh, Riyadh is much more expensive. Jeddah can be expensive in some areas. We were paying quite a bit here initially, because I went for furnished apartments. I'm not sure what a furnished apartment would be there in Riyadh, but we were spending close to about 50,000 Riyal, Saudi Riyal, and that's quite a bit, for that's a lot of money for here.
That was just rent?
Yeah, that was just rent and per year, right? And so that's nothing. Actually, that would be a very good deal,
Right.
But here, that I was actually told by one police officer. He said, "You're paying too much," flat out. And then I forgot who it was. Someone else said, it was an Uber driver, told me, "Man, you're paying too much." Then I had heard that twice, right? And so but it was that I was just too. I guess, I move real slow. I don't jump into things. So getting a furnished place and having to be responsible for, electricity and all the bills and everything, there's just too many unknowns there. So I'm very cautious. So that was one of my reasons behind not jumping into a unfurnished right away, even though, the prices they look, totally, impossible. There's no way I'd be spending like $500 to $600 only a month, right? Compared to what I was spending.
Okay, so people are concerned about being able to stay in Saudi Arabia, like the visas or the residency options there. So, what would you say about that? Is that, do you have a fear about that, not being able to stay long term?
No, I don't. I was once talking to this brother who has a lot of family in the U.S. Him and his kids, or his family and his children are all here. He does not have to be here. He chose to be here because he's Sudanese and part Yemeni. He chose to be here. He works in marketing. He's got his own business. He hustles. And instead of going to the U.S., he said, "There's no way I'm going to have my children in the U.S." So I was asking him, well, aren't you worried about maybe one day kicking you and your children out? Aren't you worried about getting your kids into proper schools? He says, "Listen, I got my kids in proper schools now." He said, and then he said something that really just struck me, and which gave me a different way of thinking about, all of this, right? Because in many ways, I feel like I'm a refugee, right? I know I'm not a refugee, but I'm not trying to go back to the U.S., right, and live it, right? So I'm at the mercy of the Saudi government, and it is an unsettling feeling that you kind of have that you could be deported anytime, right? But after he said that, he made this one comment, I started thinking about it differently. He said, "We're used to this." Well, he just said, "We're used to this. It doesn't bother me." And then another Sudanese friend of mine, I asked him, "What does he do?" He said, "Listen, just go out of the country. You can just bounce. You can, bounce over to Bahrain. You can go over to Qatar. You can go to, just go out for few days or a day, and just you can even go out for the same day and come back the same day." And I did that, by the way, and it works, and they're cool. And then, but the thing is that I could get an Iqama, right, residency through my wife. All right, I can get it with her, right, because she works here, and and so forth. But I choose not to do that, and the reason why I choose not to do that is I wrote to ask for residency. Actually, I wrote I wrote MBS actually, Prince Prince and I don't think it got to him, but it got to somebody really high up, and they sent a notice back, or they called my wife and gave her the message, and I think they sent me an email or something. But basically, they denied me my request, and they didn't give a reason why. But then later, I found that I have a number or something, and it allows me to go in and out. And I'm not saying that this can be for everyone. I don't know. I don't even know how I got it, but I can tell you this. When I go out, I just scan my passport. I don't even see immigration officers anymore. I just go out, scanning my passport. I come back. When I get ready to renew my visa, which is just a visitor's visa, because they changed the laws now, so you can just keep renewing your visitor's visa. Actually, it works out to be a lot cheaper. And it's, for me, I like it that way. It's much better. I like it having the visitor visa, and also enjoy having my dependency, right? I don't want to be dependent on anyone, and I don't want anyone asking me about my Iqama. Well, where's your Iqama, right? So, and then that ends that discussion, because this actually happened to me, where this guy tried to use my Iqama. I could see how he was trying to use that as some leverage over me or something. And that has always concerned me. But when I go out, I go out. I always buy my visitor's visa is for 1 year, okay? And it used to be that you could go out only in and out twice, for up to, I think you had 180 days, or no, I'm sorry, 90. It's 90. So you had 6 months, right? But you had to be out and 3 months, another 3 months, and then you had to wait for another year to get another visa for a year. But they've changed that now, so that doesn't apply. And when you go out, you can go out as many times, in and out as many times you want on that 1 year visa. Okay, you used to leave every 3 months. That's what I do. I just go out every 3 months. I make sure, when they say 3 months, it's not really 3 months. It's 90 exact days. So it doesn't matter if it's 31 days in a month. Don't make the mistake that I did once, which is think that, okay, it's 3 months. So, March has 31 days in it. Cool. Well, February has 28 in it, but March has it 31 days and 31 days and another 31 days. Actually, that is now 93 days. You are 3 days over. And that's how they count that, right? And they also go by the Islamic calendar too. So they don't go by the Gregorian calendar, the Christian calendar.
Right.
So it's cool with me. I don't have a problem with it. I actually like my situation. I like being able to go out every day. So yeah.
So, I mean, what's the penalty for overstaying?
Well, I got penalized for being, I think I was 3 days over because of that same situation I just described, where I was
Right.
counting months and not the days. And I think I was 3 days over. I think I was supposed to pay 300, but they only fined me 100. They just told me to pay
Okay.
100. I explained to them, hey, man, it's 3 months. What are you talking about? And I
Right.
went back and forth, and then I had to go see a supervisor, and the supervisor sent me back over there, and these guys sent me back to the supervisor, and they sent me to another person, and I did all of that, and I think they kind of liked me because I wasn't going to give up. I was thinking to myself, it's only not it's 3 months, man. Come on.
Right.
They said, okay, just pay 100, right? Yeah, so I paid 100.
100
Oh
what?
yeah, 100 real. My bad. 100
Okay.
real. Yeah, it was just 100 real. 3.75 reals to $1.
Download our free guide to Saudi visa and residency types and get clear, practical insight into the options available to you, who they are for, and how to get started. This guide is the first step to planning your move with confidence. Visit saudi.makehijrah.com and get your free copy today.
So what about being able to rent an apartment that's not furnished without having the residency?
Okay, that could be a problem. That may be a problem. It all depends on the owner, because you have to, now they've made it so that you have to go online, and there is you have to have a lease, and the lease is all done online. It is done through the authorities. So if there's any issues with actually, it's a pretty good system, because if there's any issues, you don't have to worry about dealing with the owner. You'll just deal right directly with the authorities, and then they intervene, and they will make a decision and take care of the issue, whatever it is. Like, for example, we broke our lease. We had a very good reason legally. We had a very good reason for doing so. Okay. So, but we didn't have any issues with the owner of the building. He went ahead and signed us out. Let us break our lease without any issues. We were totally prepared to fight it all the way. If we had to go there, didn't want to, of course, right? But I was prepared, and we were, we would have done that if we had to, because we had good grounds to do that. But if you don't have any income or don't have a residency, you're pretty much stuck with either two things: getting a furnished place, which is going to cost you a little bit more, or finding an owner that will allow you to lease for 3 months and then renew it in 3 months when you come back. So going in and out, right? Like I said, the only bad part of that is that you're not going to be locked into a lease. So if anything should come up and say, like, they want to raise the prices up, or they want to raise the price of the rent, or they may want to do some repairs and say you got to leave. Okay. Well, you're at the mercy of that owner. You don't have a lease longer than 3 months. So you after 3 months, they can say, okay, well, we're going to raise the rent. And they can keep raising the rent every 3 months. But on a longer term lease, like for a year, like what we have, it's already set. It's already paid. We paid the whole thing for the whole year. And so, we won't have any issues for a whole year. And if they want to raise the rent, they have to wait a year to do so. If anything should happen and we don't, they have to do repairs or whatever, then they have to move us to a new location. It has to be one that is acceptable, and they have to pay for that.
Okay, so what would be your advice to people that are interested in moving to Saudi Arabia? Because you have people that have concerns about the current system. I personally think that things are starting to opportunities are opening, because before you couldn't go to Saudi Arabia like this. You You would have to go to the consulate or whatever and get an Umrah visa or get employed or join a university or something like this. But now, if I wanted to book a ticket today, I can just go, right, and get in, no problem. So it seems to me that things are becoming easier, and I think over time, this is just what I'm thinking, that there would be more opportunities, maybe freelance visas or these different type of visas that people can get possibly. So what is your advice for those who are looking for more stability? It's saying, okay, it's not practical for me to go there on a visitor visa and have to leave every 3 months, or and have this uncertainty, and then possibly end up back in my country and have to start over again from scratch.
Well, first of all, I should say something that, there are people in the U.S. who are at risk of being deported.
Mhm.
We're seeing that happening right now. I mean, and there are people who are just under the radar. And, I'm talking about people who are there legally and people who are there illegally, right? Or
Mhm.
without passport. And I will never advise anyone to go anywhere without going through the proper channels and doing it legally,
Mhm.
which is have a visa, right? Visitor visa. Then you just leave and you come back. I've done that in countries like the UK, right? So that's the first thing. The second thing is you should also know something too. Nothing is ever set in stone, and you'll never get citizenship. That won't happen. So residency is not the same as citizenship.
Mhm.
You don't have the same rights as a citizen, but you have rights as a resident, and you also have rights even as a visitor. The kingdom is not, it's not this thing that the U.S. and other Western countries may try to, paint this picture like it's this bad boogeyman place where if you go there, you're gonna face, cruelty and injustice. It's just not that way. And I know from experience because I've had some issues come up where I've had to go and deal with the police on these issues, not for something that I did, but for something someone else did against me. Right?
Mhm.
And I can tell you, man, these guys, they respond very well. And it's not like in the US where a person, I had a police officer point a gun in my face and I was just trying to ask for directions. You're not going to get that here.
Mhm.
So back to their question, what would I advise? I would just be patient. That's the one thing, because things are changing so fast here. Nothing is remaining the same. You mentioned that things have changed, and that is so true. Since the time when I first got here, okay, when I came at the end of 2019, and then I ended up being here throughout whole 2020. From 2020 to 2021, things changed fast. And then from 2021 into 2022, it changed even more.
Mhm.
Now they're getting rid of this whole kafila system. That was just a discussion in 2020. That was just a discussion. That wasn't happening. It didn't happen. But
Mhm.
now it's actually happening. They got rid of the system.
Mhm.
They have a law now that where to discriminate against somebody because of the color of their skin is a major crime.
Mhm.
It's a major crime now, right? In theory, it always was a crime. Okay, and the authorities would have dealt with it just like they dealt with anything else, right? But now it's set in stone. So things are changing. Now, obviously, I'm not going to speak as if I know everything about what's happening because I don't.
Right.
In all honesty, I don't. But through my experience, I can say that, with any uh, country such as this, right? You're talking about a country the size of Texas. It's a small country with about a little over 30 million people. You're going to have changes. You're going to have things that are going to happen that you're not going to like. Things always going to be something that you're not going to like, right? But things are moving in the right direction, and they move slow. They don't happen right away because you're talking about a government, right? It has to make decisions that are okay for everybody, that where everybody benefits, right? You have a whole bunch of people from the West coming in, and they got all this money, and they're dropping down all this money, and it raises all the prices. Well, you're gonna push some people out, and then you're gonna create a bigger problem. So there has to be a balance, right? And that's what I think that the government is attempting to do, because they are welcoming people who have talent, who have skills, like high education. They're welcoming these people into the kingdom, and they want this, right? The whole Gulf area is competing for this. They want people who have high education. They also want young people who have high education. Okay, so they really want that. Okay, but things are changing and they're moving. You know, I would say they're moving to at a good enough pace where if you're just patient, you'll reap the benefits. You'll be very pleased.
All right, Doctor, we appreciate you taking your time out to talk to us. And inshallah, we'll definitely stay in touch and seek out your advice in the future about Saudi Arabia and other things, inshallah.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for allowing me to share that experience and make Hijrah. If you're Muslim, if you're living in the West, don't hesitate. Just make that move, because if you don't make a move, it'll never happen.